Agger's essay in the New Media Reader, Surveillance and Capture. This was published in 1994, and it's found in the New Media Reader. So some information and facts about Mr. Argel, is that he was a former associate professor of information studies at the University of California, Los Angeles. He was successfully the publisher of the Network Observer and the Red Rock Eater news service. So the Network Observer ran from January 1994 until July 1998, and the Red Rock Eater news service was an influential mailing list that he started in the mid-1990s and ran for around a decade. It contained a mix of news, internet policy, and politics, and it served as a model for many of today's political blogs and online newsletters. This is just information that I found on a website called Revolvi. Yeah. And I'm mostly just quoting this from the website. He had also had, prior to his teaching position at UCLA, he had held faculty positions at the University of Chicago, the School of Cognitive and Computing Sciences, which is now the School of Informatics, at the University of Sussex, and the Department of Communication at the University of California, San Diego. Some of other works that he has done includes Cyberspace as American Culture and Introduction, The Limits of Cyberspace. So, in the article Surveillance and Capture, he goes over how, how ideas about privacy are cultural phenomena, and they are shaped through historical experiences and our conditioned perceptions of newly arised phenomena, and are reproduced and transformed the same way as most other elements of culture. So when he talked about privacy, he split them up into two contrasting models. The first model was the surveillance model, and the second one is the capture model. So with the surveillance model, it's dominant in the public discourse of the English-speaking world, and due to it being built upon visual metaphors, and it derives from historical experiences. So, for example, secret police surveillances from like literature that we can see today. So, like, for example, in George Orwell's 1984, Big Brother would be one of them. It's built on visual metaphors, so whatever's being said is not literal, but it's a metaphor. It's also built upon 5 components, the first being visual metaphors, as I said before, and just like the example I used before, George Orwell's Big Brother. So the second component is that the assumption that is watching, in quotations, is non-disruptive and repetitive. So unless the machine or whatever is watching hasn't gone astray or is issuing a threat, so it is still doing what it's supposed to do. The third is territorial metaphors, as in the invasion or private personal space. Prototypically, the family home, which is marked out by rights and opposition between coercion and consent. The fourth being identification or orchestration by means of a bureaucracy. with a unified set of files and quotations. And the fifth being identification with the state, in particular a consciously planned out malevolent aims of a specifically political nature. He also says that the surveillance model is a cultural phenomenon, and it is deeply rooted in modern history with historical experiences of secret police organizations and the networks of listening devices and informers. So, for example, in like more like Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union. So more totalitarian. So back when those were like more, it existed more with totalitarian countries. And the other model, which is the capture model. So the capture model is to contrast the surveillance model, and as such, it is also a metaphor system. So he distinctively said that he uses the verb to capture as a means of taking information, and as such, when information is captured, it isn't spoken as like fleeing, escaping, or resenting its imprisonment. It's not like you are capturing an animal or something like that where it resists and struggles. In fact, it is just more like copying information, if anything. And as such, it has two uses. The most frequent one refers to a computer system's figuratively the act of acquiring certain data as input. So whether that be from a human operator or from an electronic or electromechanical device. So an example of that would be a cash register in a fast food restaurant as capturing a patient's orders, and the implication being that the information isn't just simply just used on the spot, but it's passed along to another database to actually take in all the information. And the second use is it's more common with artificial intelligence research, and it refers to a representation scheme's ability to fully, accurately, or cleanly express particular semantic notations or distinctions without reference to the actual taking in of data. So with this, an example might be you could refer to as an object-oriented the object classes of an object-oriented computer program as capturing the distinction between the standing orders in the program and particular occasions on which goods are arrived. So this is how this article is important to the study of new media, is because on how it explores privacy. It doesn't just talk about privacy as one's consent or one's allowance of information to be put out there and information to not be put out there. And instead, it splits it up into the capture model and the surveillance model. So with the surveillance model, with regards to, well, an example of it would be tracking devices. Tracking devices used for tracking packages, whether it be something attached to a prisoner's ligament, something that is able to find out where something is. But it's not as simple as that. It's also piece of information. It has a certain area in which it can actually track down where an object is or someone is within a certain grid. Uh, so, for example, a package being delivered from Amazon, it has a specific barcode that is, and with that barcode, it has information on what the package is, so what it contains, where it's supposed to be going, and how long it's been out. And that information is not only sent to a computer, but it's also sent to a central database so that all the information can be recorded. And with capture model, we can see it in we can see this as, we see this every day from us using information. Whenever we come across, just for example, like the information I used from the new media reader, I captured this information and I put it into another medium, which would be the slideshow and what I'm reading from my script. And back to the example of an object class, of an object-oriented program, it captures whatever inputs we give it, and then it outputs information based on whatever information the program has captured from it. So that's why I find this article to be important to the study of new media, because on how it uses the distinction between the capture model and the surveillance model, and how it's actually so significant to how it's significant with the emergence of new technologies, and how those technologies are advanced, but they still rely on the same principle of the surveillance capture model when it comes to information. And policies revolving around privacy, since, for example, in the US, you aren't able to download music because you're not allowed to capture the information that is that MP3 file or whatnot. And as such, there are surveillance models there on certain websites that you would use to actually convert whatever music you find into an MP3. And as such, it is able to find out where you're actually committing this act, and it's capturing this information as well, and it's sending it to another computer somewhere else. So this is why I find this article to be important to the study of new digital media, of new media.